Okay, I changed my mind. I think it's going to be easier just to do it here. Nobody's, well, I guess they could maybe see it, but once you close it up, it's hidden and I'm not worried about it getting shown. So, and then I don't have to erase it. Added bonus. Whoops, I just did 4. I can't count today either. When that eraser on the end of my pencil goes. I don't know. Did they just get old? Beats me. I suppose. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I thought about grabbing an extra one for like my leftover pieces, but I'll just put them on a pile. So I cut my my 12 by 12 to 8.5 by 12, just so it'll go through my smaller paper trimmer as opposed to my bigger one. Now deciding which one I want where. So I'm probably going to go with a plain one for sure. Let's see. Where's my, that one's plain colored and plain colored. And then, I mean, some of them are, but I want to keep, like this one, I probably want it to be one of those solid colored cardstocks, as probably this one, just because a lot of those are my focal points. And then this one and this one and this one can be my pattern paper, because if I'm looking at it as a whole on this one, you know, these ones, granted this one could definitely be more of a pattern, but we'll keep it as is on that one. And then, because yes, like this one and this one, these colors I should have made a little bit further apart, but like this one and this one and this one all come from this one, as does this one. So all of my focal points kind of are in those two for the most part, so that's why I would do solids on those, and then I'll do the pattern paper on those 3. So let's start with our first one here. Let's see. Yep, you can see it. And it really doesn't matter which one you go with, you know, just pick one and go, right? So this one, my first cut is going to be at 2 inches. Now, because I didn't pre-cut these ones down, they're going to have an extra 1/2 inch on them, so just keep that in mind. And then I cut this one this way, so you get the 6 inches. So you're going to end up with some scraps on that end, especially if they didn't rip very good. So this one is 2 by 2, so I'm just going to cut these 2 by 2. So at 4 and 2. So these ones are for number 4. So let's find that envelope right away. I'm going to tuck those in there. And then for number 11. And then for my second cut, I'm going to cut this down to 6 right away here. My second cut is going to be 3 inches wide. And then we're going to do the 2 by 2s again. So once at 4, once at 2, and then this one is that, oops, let me go the right side here. It's that 5.5 by 1 inch. So I just need to cut this one at 5.5. And then we're going to have our little scrap piece there. I'm pretty sure that one was 1 inch wide. Yep. Okay. So this one is number 10. And then I need number number 6 and number 5. 5. Where, oh where? And number 6. And that's our first sheet. So our second sheet is this one right here, which I'm just going to cut this one down to 6 by 6 right away. And then for this one, our first cut can either be either the 4 or the 2, but I'm going to start with the 4 just because it's bigger. So 4, and then by 4. And then the rest of these are just going to be by 2s. Two. 4. And so we need 4 of these for number 3. One of them for number 4. And then the last one is for card number 9. So then the next ones are going to be my colored cardstock pieces or my pattern pieces. So again, cutting this one, I'm gonna, let's see, I'm gonna cut this one to 5.5. And then I'm going to cut it at 3 inches. And then this piece here, probably should have cut this one the other way, but I'm going to start with my 5.5 inch strip. And then it's supposed to be about 1/2 inch. Which I probably should have done my 1/2 inch strip earlier. Just saying, it would have been easier to cut. So if it's harder for you to cut it this way, I totally understand. The thing that you can do, let me grab a piece of scratch paper here, is take your washi or a removable, you know, something that's not going to stick and okay. So I'm just going to butt this one up here. You can do this with a Post-it note as well, I've seen done, which I've done before too. But I'm just going to stick that there. It's just going to give me something to hold on to when I get to that smaller piece. So 3/4, and this one, the 1/2 inch is like right on that line there. So, but this way I can butt it up to this one and I'll get a straight-ish cut, mostly straight cut on it without a whole lot of issues. And then we'll cut this one at 5.5. Oh, it is already 5.5. Genius. Freaking genius. So the little strip goes in my number 12. How do I feel about number 12's layout? We'll see when we get there. It was kind of one I skipped on the original version that I found of this. I just didn't like, but that one was like itty bitty. I don't know. It was like criss and cross, but I think I can make it work with maybe a different piece of paper behind it. I don't know. We'll see. Numbers. This one, we're going to start with that, making it our 6 inches first, making it 5.5, and then we'll cut this one at 3, and we should have, whoops, this one at 5.5. Oh, I wiggled it. Yeah. Okay, so this one will go for number 12 again. And then 6 and 8 for my and number 8. Oh, which one do I want to use for my last piece of pattern paper? Decisions, decisions. I like the tone on tone, but I think I'm going to go with the florals. Toot, 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 toot. 6. And so this one is, oh, I cut those at 5 1/4 and not 5 1/2. Oh, well, obviously I can't cut properly. That's fine. We'll just go with it. So I'm gonna cut this one at 5 1/2 again, and I'm gonna cut this one at 5 1/2 again because obviously I did it the first 2 times, so you can cut it at 5 1/4 if you would prefer. I can always trim off that little bit later on if I don't like where I'm going with it. Okay, this one needs to be 5 1/2 by 3 inches. And then three quarters, and 1.5 inches. So because we're doing 2 small ones and then a smaller one, I probably should have started with the smaller cuts and worked my way to the big cut, but we're going to do it this way. So 3/4 of an inch would be 2 1/4 inch on that end, and then 3/4 of an inch is going to be at 1 1/2, which is what our last cut what our leftovers should be anyways. So that way we get those ones. So these ones go for number 8. This one goes for number 7. And this one is number 10. And then for our last piece, we're going to bring in this one. Now I'm going to cut this one at one cut is going to be at 5 1/2, and one is going to be at 5 1/4. So I think I'm going to start with the 5 1/4, just because if this was an 8 1/2 by 11 sheet of paper, you know, it would be that whatever. It doesn't really matter. And then this one is the 5 1/2. And then I need one 4 1/4, which if I cut it right on the other, it should be 4 1/4. And then this one is going to be a 4 inch and a 4 inch. So 4 inches, 4 inches. And this gives me some nice leftover strips for sentiments or whatever. If I decide I need to pull in something for a different one, because it just needs something, those leftover pieces will kind of come in handy. As will some of these, if, you know, they're going to end up working. These were just the leftover bits from that, how the paper pack was laid out. Sometimes, you know, your 6x6 is just 6x6 and it doesn't have the top piece. Alright, so this one is for number 1. And this one is for number 11. And Our full sheet is for number 2. And I do have that extra one, and I have a feeling it'll probably end up being, you know, a base for something. I don't know yet. We will see. Okay, and so there we go. Or we could just make 2 number 1s as per, you know. So now all of our cards components should be in their allotted envelope, and we can just start working through and making, you know, focal points for them. So basically the sheet is just like your basics, like what your basic layout is going to be with your pattern paper. Feel free to switch it up however you see fit or however you would like to, and we'll go from there. So let me decide on what my first stamp set is going to be, and I will make a card. So I said how I was going to use what I have, like all of my colors for this one, just because I created the swatch chart to go with that Cowgirl paper pad. This is the one, so if you have both or you have one or the other, this is kind of, you know, where I would go with your color choices if you're using this paper pad. You have multiple other options, but to find ones in the 60 that kind of go with it, or something that would be close enough. So for the pink or the red, I would go with RV 390 for that one. For the yellow or, I don't know, yellowy orange tone, I would go with the YR 295. It's not gonna match exactly, you know, as these ones, but it's about as close as I can get color swatch wise for it to go. And I'm only giving you 1 marker colors on these because I want to keep the coloring fairly simple for you. And then for my green, I went with G289 would be the closest match to the green that I have there. Now for the tealy green color, there's not really anything that's going to be close to that one, but you could definitely do G191 and then go over that one with either BG042, which will kind of mute it out. If you're looking for darker, go with that MG, but there's also a GG in there, so GG030 is probably going to be your best bet to mix with that one. If you see that one to that one, it's just going to kind of be a darker tone, but you could definitely add in this one under, give it an undertone of this one, and that will help change your color a little bit. I know we haven't talked about mixing markers to get new colors, but that's kind of how I do it. For this one is the blue-gray line for the most part. So the MG70 is on the top color there, and then of course the MG069 is my second color there. So it should give you a fairly good, you know, a deep color. If you want to lighten it up, do some tip to tip with your 0 marker, and that will help lighten that up, or go over it with your 0 marker. That's kind of what that one does for you. For the browns, E342 is going to be a direct match to my top color here. There wasn't really anything for my second color that's gonna be as, it's not gonna be that E460. So ultimately that's kind of, you know, the darker tone is what you're gonna get. If you want to lighten it, again with that 0 blender, do some blending out that way. And then for my lighter tone here, E367 is going to be close. Now if you take those colors and you want to expand on those, we have done, you know, some of the color palettes earlier on. So we did the, you know, this one uses that E367, and there's a darker shade, and a lighter shade. So if you're looking for something that's going to go, that's going to be in your 60 and your skin tone pack, that's kind of what's there. Same with that E342. Did we use it on? The 340 is going to be a close, it's going to be dark, right? So you could do that E340 possibly with that E42 and you'll get a little bit lighter tone with your darker. So that's kind of where that one's at. This one we said 295. So 295 is my lightest color here. So if you want to go a little bit darker, I would do the YR 596. Again, all of these should be on my blog. So if you're looking for color options, they should be there. And then of course you can always go darker with that green, as the 289 is my lightest color on this one. So just keep that in mind. And to get lighter, always mixing it with a colorless blender is gonna make it lighter, because that's basically what you're doing with that colorless blender, is kind of fading it out. So keep that in mind. Hopefully that helps a little bit. Shoot questions, comments down below. Copics would be, you know, similar arrays of color if that's what you're coloring with. I don't have any Ohuhus, so I don't know what to tell you in there. If you want Copic cross colors, I have some. I haven't pulled up my Copics for a long time, but you know, so I have some. I could definitely pull them if somebody is interested. Oh, those aren't Copics, those are a different one. Yeah, so like I've tried a lot of different markers. Okay. If you don't want to do alcohol markers, that's fine too. Watercolor, color pencils, any of those things work for coloring medium wise. Anyways, so for the first one, I decided on the What the Cluck stamp set from Unity Stamps. Just because it's big and bold, or it's a larger size stamp, and I think it'll fill in. This one's that simple, just that, I think it's what, 5 1/4 by 4 inch piece of cardstock that sits on the front. So I can go pretty much with whatever, but this one's gonna take up a lot of space, or a larger amount of space on the front. So I think that's what we're gonna do for this one. So I'm gonna pop this into my stamp platform. This one is, of course, red rubber. So if you have a MISTI, you have to take out that extra added piece, and that will help to do, you know, help it do its thing. Now, I love Unity stamps. The red rubber always stamps really good, right? But the other part about it is you really don't need, I love the fact that, like, alcohol marker wise, they color, you know, you don't need a whole lot of, because there's so much detail in the stamp image itself. But ultimately, they're probably my favorite to actually watercolor on, just because they're so detailed and it's, you know, easy. Now, because I'm not going to let it sit and dry for 5 minutes, I'm just going to heat set it. Just a quick heat set from the heat gun works well. Otherwise, let it sit and dry for a little bit and it'll be okay. Let's see, chicken color. I am going to go in with my pink. So my color palette that we're working with, right? So I'm going to try to keep it just down to one color and not worry a whole lot about all the extra things, right? So we're going to start here with, I know this part's going to be pink. I haven't decided what color I'm coloring her yet. Usually there's a little bit of pink up there. That's probably it for the pink. Do I want to do a pink bow? We could. Let's do a pink bow. So I switched out my Lawn Fawn ink pad last week, and so I'm, you know, I'm playing with a fresh ink pad. I will say that I don't know if all of them switch their, shall I say, genetic makeup. their recipe, but they don't, I don't know, can I say they don't stay as well as they used to? Like when I started coloring, it was smearing the black, which is, I don't know, frustrating to me on that level. Oh, this is probably supposed to be pink too. I probably should have gone with a different color on the bow. Oh well. So we have that color. Let's do the darker gray for, oh, we could go brown too, but I like the blue color. Let's do the blue and the tealy blue. We'll go this one. So for this one, I'm just going to kind of, I'm not overly worried about it. This one kind of shows you where the shadows are fairly well in the actual stamped image. So if you want to hit those darker areas with your darkest color and then go from there. But I'm just going to kind of go along the outsides here, kind of just do some flicking motion. To give that illusion of, you know, feathers. It doesn't have to be well blended to look good. I am going to drop a shadow underneath here. And then this side looks like it's darker in the shadow, so coming in with that darker shade is going to help a little bit. Well, I guess it really doesn't matter because you can't see it the greatest. So I'm going to go in with that blue-gray 069. And I'm going to color the rest of it in with that one. I'm going with the big side because I like to not waste time. The brush works wonders for this, but for those larger areas, it just, I don't know, it works well. I probably shouldn't go over the glasses. I did though. I'll deal with it in a little bit. Okay. I see my chickie ladies are hanging out on the cement again today. Chickens are, you know, they're like small children. They don't listen, ever. Like, they're not supposed to be on the back patio. Where are they? On the back patio. Yeah. Typical. Just like the little children. I'm just coming in with a green just to give it maybe some, you know, some more interest color-wise. You wouldn't have to. I was trying to go for semi what I went with for my last one. And so I'm just going to add in, I shouldn't say my last one, the ones that I colored off screen that we'll end up putting on some cards later on here. This chicken's got better eyelashes than I've got. Dang, girl. Lucky hen. Okay. Go here. My chickens have the most gorgeous orange eyes. They're like orange and yellow and just amazing. Beautiful. Alright. So for my beak, I'm going to come in with that yellow red color. And then I'm just going over the areas that maybe I want a little bit darker a second time with that color. Do I need to do, well, we can try to make the frames green. I don't think it's really going to work at this point, but we can go in with glitter brush maybe. Glitter pen. Sounds like the way to go. Let's grab I'm gonna do that light green. The glitter markers from Ohuhu, I'm gonna use that greenish tone. I'm thinking it'll go okay with my paper. And let's see, I need to look at the actual stamp again. So sometimes if you look at the stamp, like the image that comes with the stamp, you have a better time at, you know, figuring out where all the things are supposed to be. Her glass shapes remind me of my glass shapes. And then of course mine are glittery, so bonus. And there we have our, you know, image for the most part. If you wanted to add either a cool gray, like your lightest cool gray, or this one is a blue gray, I'm just gonna add a little bit of that. I'm gonna have to bleed that out with some clear blender because that was not light enough. I should have gone with the gray. Anyways. So I'm going to blend that one out a little bit just to give her a little bit of depth to the eye and go that route. I do want to make her glittery eyes, I'm telling you. Okay, this one, I have the die for it. Thank you, Miss Amy File. Okay, so this one, I think we might be able to get it in the little one. We'll see. I might have to cut it down a little bit. So for this one, I'm just going to line up my die here. Maybe, possibly. And I'm going to need this one. Looks like it gives it a fairly good border. Oh, the cut is on the inside. So what you see where this line is here is where your cut's gonna be. So if that helps. I can't say that I've used Unity dies before, so bear with me. And then for this one, I'm gonna sandwich it between, I think we can sneak it in here. Let's see. Perfect. Yeah. And then it'll pop that out and set this one off to the side. And then for this one, we have number 1, right? So do I want a white or a green? I think we're going to come in with the white. This is just a regular piece of cardstock, 8.5 by 11, cut lengthwise, like the long way, into, I guess you'd call it hamburger? No, hot dog. Whatever. It's this way, cut in half, right? And then scored at that 5.5 mark, so it's going to open top fold. It doesn't, you know, I like top fold. I don't know why I like top fold. I used to never do top fold, but it's kind of a fun one to, I think they stand up well. I don't know. To each their own. So I'm going to bring this one in. And I'm just going to glue that, put some glue on the back, center that onto our card base. Now you could put this one on an action wobbler, that would be fun. So an action wobbler, you can get them fairly cheap online, or Hobby Lobby has them. I think they were what? This is the paper shop. So if you get them when they have the paper shop stuff half off, That's usually when I would pick them up. You know, but $5 for, I think there's 12 of them in there. So, you know, 50 cents a card maybe, if they all work. Sometimes they don't. This is the big one just because it's a huge image. I will use the big one. Normally, I just use the little ones, which, you know, they work as well. Before I add this, I want to put the sentiment on. So, I think here for that, let's see what we're going to do for the sentiment. So, for this one, I'm just going to directly put the sentiment on the bottom. Let's see. We have poultry in disbelief. What the cluck? You're howled or plot twist? I think we're going to go with poultry in disbelief. So I'm going to bring that one in. What? I didn't clean my stuff off? No way. Totally poultry in disbelief on that one. It's totally. Okay. So for this one, I'm going to kind of figure out where that one's going to go and this one. So I kind of want it centered. You could definitely go higher up. Pick a side, depending upon what image you choose to use for this one. Now, I don't know how straight that is, right? I'm just putting it on my platform, kind of getting it where I want it to be on the platform, because that's where it's going to be on my card, right? So now I'm going to go this way and I'm going to kind of play with my positioning, kind of going with this line here and that line there and trying to make it look like it's straight across. So it still looks like I look like I'm over. Why do I look like I'm so far over? Alright, let's try here. And then do this again. And here's hoping we're straight. You could definitely put a piece of scratch paper on. Here, I got some chicken scratches. Okay, we'll put, whoops. I'm just going to put this here and we're going to test it out first, okay? So if you're afraid that it's going to be really crooked, or, you know, your lining up skills are like mine, and you're not always sure, that looks pretty straight, to be honest. So I'm good with it. The other thing is, if you stamp it and it's totally crooked and you hate it, you can always stamp it on a sheet, another piece of paper, and cut it out and put it over the top. It's usually my fix for those types of issues. So for this one, we're going to pop this one out. Do I want to do my inside? Let's do the inside limit right away. Otherwise, I'll forget. Okay. Poultry in disbelief. And we'll just go with what the cluck on the inside. I'm going to pull this over. What the cluck on the inside, and then I'm going to bring in my image as well and kind of add that to the corner over here. Alright, so we're going to pick this one up. I'm going to do the same thing and kind of try to make sure that it is going to be straight. I think I need to move this over a little bit here. That looks like we're good there. I'm going to do the VersaFine on this one. And then if you have colored ink, I am going to pull in, let's see, first let me go with, I'm going to clean that one and remove it. I am going to go with, what do we think is going to be close? I'm guessing like Saltwater Taffy is going to kind of match my peachy pinks that are kind of out there. So I'm going to do that on this one. just because I think it'd be fun to have a pink chicken on the inside. She got, you know, her feathers dyed. We have a gorgeous, I think it's silky, and she's white, and I've seen people that dye their white chicken feathers, you know, with pet friendly dye. I think it's hilarious. Will I do it? No, because, you know, she's a gorgeous white chicken. Alright, so there we go. I probably should have put that one on a little bit further so the other eye would have been on there, but this works. It gets that point across, you know, that poultry and disbelief. Okay, so pop that one out, pop that one there, and this one and this one. So I'm going to start with this side, peel off those little protector pieces. I'm going to pop that onto the back here, kind of in the center. And once I have that in the center, I'm just going to peel that one off, and then we can pop that one right there. Now, if you have the jelly glaze in black, you could definitely do that for her eyeballs to get them to pop. I decided I was going to just use some glossy accents on her actual glasses. So this is one of those extra steps you don't have to do. It's kind of a fun step to add though. And then because the other part of her eyeglasses are behind the lens, we're just going to go over the whole lens with that glossy accent. If you don't have glossy accents, but you have a like a Versamarker pen, you could do the Versamark and then go over it with clear embossing powder. And that will give you that same look without needing the dry time. I would definitely give, you know, this probably a good 24 hours of dry time before I put anything on top of it. Does that make sense? Like before I squish it, watch me as I set it to the side and forget that it's there and set something on top. That's my go-to. I think we're pretty good there. So I'm going to come in here with just a pin tip and maybe push it out a little bit. I have a little bit more control with the pin tip than I have with my bottle tip. I think we're pretty good here. Just that one spot that was okay. And so there we have our first card in our 1 of 12 series. This one, would you have to, you know, you could definitely not even, I don't know, if it's one of them. You could switch it out for a pattern paper instead, especially if you're using a 12 by 12 paper pack. So you know, don't feel you have to go with just a plain piece of paper for this one. You could definitely go with something that has some print on it. Maybe like a polka dot. Something that's tone and tone with polka dots would be kind of cute. But there we have our What the Cluck card. And then she will wobble her. Alright, there's card 1. Hope you got your s'mores ready. It's time for stamp camp.